is here. Let's reveal the truth. Hello, everyone. I'm your host, Wenda Guan. Sitting next to me is Davy, an expert who has worked in the fields of AI and cloud computing for many years. Hi, Davy. Please say hello to our audience.
Hi, everyone. I'm Davy. I've held important leadership positions at major tech companies in both China and the US, and for a long time I focused on cloud computing and AI. I'm really glad to have this opportunity today to talk with you all about the future trends in AI development, as well as the differences between AI in China and the US.
So, Davy, in your opinion, looking from now into the future, over the long course of time, what stage do you think our AI is currently at?
Well, our AI still has at least three stages it needs to break through. The first stage is what we call the AI assisted stage. What we mean by the AI assisted stage is that without changing anything about our current situation, we use AI as an auxiliary tool. However, the main tools we rely on remain unchanged. You might have heard this story before. If you ask someone, I want to get to another place faster, they would definitely answer, I want a faster horse. Back in the 19th century, because there were no cars yet, right? So this is actually very similar to our current stage. AI is just an auxiliary tool, whether we're doing data analysis or anything else. When we're doing our daily work or even in our everyday lives, AI appears in a supporting role. But our main processes and the way we do things haven't really changed yet. So this is our first stage. However, we believe that the real explosion of AI is yet to come. The second stage of AI is called AI native. At that stage, many tools we are used to today may completely change. For example, the smartphones we use every day may no longer work the same way. The individual apps on our phones may also gradually disappear. Yes, a completely new state might emerge. Maybe we can't imagine it right now, but in my understanding, for example, communication will be through natural language. It won't be like now, where we have to open TikTok or send emails. Right now, if we want to look up information, we have to open different apps separately, but in the future, that might be gone. Instead, everything will be supported by AI capabilities. A new form will be created to build applications that interact with you. At that point, we call it AI native. This is also a concept Jensen Huang talked about on the first day of CS, that in the future, things will appear in the form of native AI. Instead of just patching up existing apps with some AI features like we do now. So, the second stage is what we call AI native. Then, in the third stage, AI might evolve. When we talk about so-called AI evolution, it means that in our world right now, we have our own ideas and our own judgments. So, what are these judgments based on? They're based on our personal experiences, right? Well, you can think of AI as something that knows everything, that has access to all information. Will it make judgments based on this? At a certain point in time, yes, it will. It could even help you define what's good and what's bad. That would be called the age of AI awakening. At that time, for us humans, our main task would be to challenge AI. There's something interesting about that. If we rely on AI for everything, then no one would invent new laws or theories anymore. Right? Because even the smartest AI, as we discussed last time, is still based on probability. It won't come up with the Pythagorean theorem, and it won't discover new continents. If you tell it you want to discover a new continent, it'll say, based on all my experience, there's no way to get there, because no one has ever been to that place. So, when we reach the stage where AI has situational awareness, what humans need to do is break through those boundaries. This is what I see as the three stages of AI development that I can think of so far.
So, from what you're saying, if some people don't learn about AI, but over time AI is bound to take up a huge part of our market, then for those who don't understand AI, will it cause some inconveniences in their daily lives?
Oh, absolutely. We can imagine what it was like 10 or 20 years ago, before smartphones. Back then, people still relied on newspapers and radios to get information. At that time, no one really felt there was much of a difference. But now, even people who are 70 or 80 years old are learning to use smartphones because they've realized that without a smartphone, life in today's world is just too inconvenient. Yeah, you can't get information and you can't even shop normally. Mobile internet has already brought huge changes to our lives, so AI will definitely bring about even more dramatic changes.
By the way, another topic just came to mind. because I know that the data used for AI applications in China and the US is actually quite different.
Yeah,
So, could we say that when it comes to personal privacy, the data used in China is actually more private, while in the US, to some extent, a lot of our human privacy is actually being violated?
actually, it's the other way around.
Oh,
Why is that? Ever since the internet era, ever since we had the internet and then mobile internet, people have become especially cautious about privacy data and are very reluctant to reveal any information. So, when it comes to privacy legislation, privacy protection, and how to handle privacy, the US is actually the most advanced in terms of regulation and technology. So, it's actually the opposite. The large models in the US are definitely trained using public data. If any data is private or copyrighted, they will always obtain the rights first. Well, on the other hand, because China's internet history is relatively short and the legislation hasn't kept up, it's actually more likely that large models in China might infringe on privacy. It's similar to how many of the apps we commonly use on our phones actually violate your privacy, but you don't even realize it. For example, I mentioned something yesterday, and today I received ads about it. Why is it that I searched for a car yesterday, and today I'm getting all these car recommendations? It's because they use some of my private data without my permission.
hmm. So, from what you're saying, does that mean American AI might actually be less accurate because it involves a lot of highly private information?
Actually, it's just the opposite. As we know, the US has the largest tech forums and the biggest communities, and the quality of data there is extremely high. So, when you use such high quality data, the results you get from training are definitely accurate. And it's powerful. On the other hand, in China, a lot of forums, especially public data, contain a lot of what we commonly call spam data. And that is exactly why we always say garbage in and garbage out.
You just mentioned that, for now, American AI might be at the first stage. What about China? What stage are they at?
Actually, when it comes to this stage, the whole world is basically at the same point. However, from an application perspective, China is slightly ahead. As we just mentioned, the first stage is called the AI assisted stage. In this stage, AI assistance means using AI capabilities together with existing tools, existing processes, and existing business operations. So, from this perspective, China is a bit more advanced because when it comes to AI applications, broadly speaking, Chinese individuals, consumers, and companies are more receptive to new technologies. The level of acceptance is higher than in the US. Americans are relatively more conservative. Take mobile internet or mobile payments. For example, Chinese people easily adopted WeChat Pay and Alipay, while Americans are still using credit cards. Their acceptance of mobile payments is relatively low. Yeah, it's the same with AI. In China, ordinary people are quick to accept AI and easily embrace the idea that these AI tools can help them. In the US, it's slower. So, this is the first stage. In this first stage, China is relatively faster.
On the other hand, I know that because of the trade war, things like chips are basically no longer allowed to be imported from the US. So, do you think that in the future, there might be something similar between China and the US when it comes to AI? A trend toward.
From the perspective of chips, right now, of course, we all know that Nvidia dominates the market. As for China, they're also working hard to catch up. For example, last week, the week before CES, a company listed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange called Biren Technology, which is a leading GPU company in China, went public in Hong Kong. Its valuation is also very high, so everyone has high hopes for it. But looking at the next 3 to 5 years, it's going to be very difficult for China to surpass the US at the chip level. In other words, for the next 3 to 5 years, NVIDIA will likely continue to dominate. However, in the field of engineering, China, including what we just mentioned, how to compress, how to distill, and how to compete for traffic. In this regard, China is more likely to develop something better within its own limited scope and based on not having such powerful GPUs. They'll create models that adapt to the current situation, and in fact, this will actually inspire the creativity of Chinese scientists and engineers.
Very good. I think that no matter how things develop in the future, China and the US will each have their own unique paths, and there will definitely be a need for different data and different models for both business and everyday users like us.
Exactly. So we hope that China and the US can complement and cooperate with each other in this field so that AI for all of humanity can reach a higher and faster level.
Thank you all for watching this episode. See you next time.
Bye.